Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Trubbick Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Thursday, the 22nd. Geez, what a day it was. Look at the green on the screen in terms of the performance. A couple thoughts or takeaways from today is, the indices or S&P back at new highs. NVIDIA, of course, you're going to hear more and more about that company and how they executed and what it kind of means for that industry of AI as well as chips. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that we had that name pulled back, of course, running into the not running into the earnings report, actually profit taking into the earnings report for the last couple of days, and just a similar move with a lot of momentum areas of the market. So it's not to say that NVIDIA is the reason why all the names went up, but I think it's also just like the momentum theme that was going on in the market, just a lot of profit taking in areas that really excelled and probably were a little bit extended, just like NVIDIA was extended, SMCI was extended, right? Then you also have software, cyber, those groups were a little bit extended. And from time to time, it is a reminder that that there is going to be profit taking from time to time, right? I mean, that's just kind of fair how the market works. You know, and being cognizant of that, I think is really important, right? And we talk a lot in my trading room about risk management and taking profits on the way up and so forth, so that when a pullback does happen, and it's really tough to know when that pullback is going to happen, right? And I go back to the earnings report that came out with Palo Alto the other day, which was a horrible report, and took down that stock and took down a lot of other stocks with it. Right? It's really tough. We have earnings reports like continuously nowadays. But even so, just because a name is reporting, it doesn't mean I'm going to take off all my risk just because there's an earnings report out there. So, the best thing that, in my opinion, that you could do is just kind of take profits as you go along. Um, and you could still have trades and runners on and so forth, but it's happened to be a number of times when it doesn't matter this particular name or whatever name it is, but where it's just something unexpected will happen. And if you take a couple targets or few, sometimes I take two. I now try to get, like, I used to always try to get that first target in on a swing trade. Now I try to get two targets in. Right. And then I could be much more liberal with taking that, third or fourth target in a swing trade. But that's all, a little bit of, personal, what's the right, just what I prefer to do, right? And you also have to recognize that too, that everybody's different, right? I feel comfortable doing that, or personal preference, I guess, is the word that I was looking for. But it's all about personal preference. So anyway, I always like to talk a little bit about strategy and just about what we kind of saw this week, because I think it's very important. I'll wrap this up and then I'll get to the price action. But it's very important in trading that to realize that when the market does go down, right, and if you're positioned mostly long, the whole name of the game is to not give back when the market isn't acting as well, as well as, for example, what it was doing from November to January, right? I mean, and actually in February, if you look at the what the S&P has done so far this month, it's up 5%, right? But regardless of what the time period is, when the market does dip, correct, right? The name of the game is not giving back all those gains that you have accumulated, right? And that does take some experience, and it takes some practice to overcome that, and adjustments to make. We've been talking about in the room the last couple of weeks is like hitting more base hits or doubles, not swinging for the fences, right? Holding a little bit smaller positions, toning down your position size, right? And I think that really, personally, that really helped for me. I think it helped out members as well, just to have that in the back of your mind, right? About the weaker Fed seasonality, which we've heard nonstop. And it's pretty amazing. So far, we're sitting here, it's the 22nd of the month. We've got about one more week to go in this month. And for a week seasonal time period, no jinx, knocking on wood. But to see the S&P up 5% month to date, it's pretty amazing. Okay, so risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. there's your themes. I'm going to get right to talking about just where the index closed, and that's new highs and a very shallow dip, a little bit of a check back into the 20-day moving average. The RSI is showing a little bit of a divergence there, but if you don't like, always the other thing is I see so many people being so critical about everything about the market, and it's important to do your analysis, right? And we've heard a lot about market breadth and about this indicator or that indicator, and oh my God, this didn't have enough names that went higher this day, right? I mean, take more profits as you go up, right? But you're not going to, I find it very few and far between where you're going to get everything perfect. Usually when it's a perfect market where you have everything breadth going well, and you name it, that looks great under the hood, those times they usually don't last for long. So you're just not going to get everything anyway for a long time that's going to be perfect, right? That's going to check every box for you, so you just have to deal with a market that's not going to be in perfect shape every second, every single time, right? And if you're concerned, right, what you do is you take more profits, right, as we break out to new highs. All right, here's the Qs. I thought that this was interesting. That the Qs, again, they've been showing a little bit more weakness, right, over the last few days than the S&P, and coming back to those double highs, right? Not double highs, but the previous highs. I also tend to watch a lot of the 1-hour charts. I was tweeting these out this morning. I was talking about, because pre-market, right? Pre-market, we were already up to this level, right? So you could have made a little bit more. But again, looking at the percentage change from the open, right? The Qs went up. It's still very good, right? Qs went up about 0.8 of a percentage point from the open. Overall, the majority of the gains were made in the pre-market, as they normally occur. Small caps, we could look at those really quickly. Right. Small caps weren't doing anything till about the middle of the day, right? And then they got going a little bit, right? And for now, I'm not going to super analyze this, but for now, they're holding where they need to, right? Which is right around the top of value. Also, another kiss off the 50-day moving average. The 50-day moving average has been so clutch for the small caps over the last about month and a half. Bounce here, a little bit of a fracture here, but above, back into here for the 50-day moving average, bounce again. So moving in the right direction, but the ranges and I think the IWM, if you like day trades, the ranges have been very good on both the upside and the downside for IWM. So let's talk about the stock of the day. Nvidia. What can you say? Here was a little, as I mentioned, that there was some profit taking. Check back to the 20-day moving average, no breakdown, right? Hold to the 20-day moving average, and launch higher. Really impressive. This was up, what, 16%? And then SMCI was up 32%, right? And I thought that this was a good trade after hours yesterday. I didn't think it would be that good. And I took profits, right? I planned out my trade. You could say to me, if you want, like, hey, why didn't you hold for bigger profits? When I entered this trade into yesterday, and I was talking about in yesterday's video, sorry, I was really close to the camera there for a second. It's getting tense. That I thought it was a nice move into the value area, and I was like, perfect. I just have to watch this level and I'll stay long. And as my call was going on yesterday, as I was doing this video, they had this convertible offering. But I was like, it's $1.5 billion. It's not the biggest offering in the world. And it kind of moved back there after I was doing a little bit of my victory lap in yesterday's video, but it held in here. And look at the move, especially like towards the end of the day. And now, if you want, right now, it's a whole new trade. So it broke the value area, right? And now it's kind of stepped back a little bit, and you could be long versus 923, right? And then forget about all the other news that's out there, right? And all the other distractions about breadth and da 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 da. This isn't good. Have your level to go long against, and you take out all the other factors, all the noise, right, that's out there, right? There's your level, 923, that you could be long for SMCI, right? I just wanted to mention one other thing too that came up, I think really crucial. for me yesterday was just how we, going back to how we closed yesterday, right? It looked like we were going to break into the value area, towards the end of the session, but we held where we needed to, right? And again, that's why I just, pay attention. These levels, I do believe that statistics are a big thing behind them. So that's, the heavy hitters. I was just going to go through, I try in these videos to kind of give you a couple other observations that were out there. So I'm going to bring up the, let's see, do I have the right page up? So here's the midday note that I send out. Please go ahead and sign up. You could get a lot of information for free, right? It's www.tddtrading.substack.com, right? I do protect, and it's $40 a month if you want to pay for the whole thing, which is nothing, right? I was talking to somebody about this the other day, who mentioned, they're like, oh geez, $40. I pay for a Bloomberg terminal and again, I'm not saying this to be obnoxious or anything like that, but you got to invest in some things. Now, you don't have to invest in a Bloomberg terminal, but I do, and it's, that's about $2,700, $2,800 a month, right? So when people complain to me about $40, right, a month, I'm like, what? You have to invest in some tools to help you trade. Again, you don't have to, you don't have to do a Bloomberg terminal, but I don't know. I just shake my head when I hear people like they don't want to pay for anything. I'm like, that's part of, like, if you're looking to make money, you've got to invest in some tools that are going to help you. Now, it doesn't have to be my product, but spend a little bit of money to try to help you. There's a lot of good information that you can get out of there, and I try to provide it pretty cheaply. But at the very least, you could sign up for free and get a little bit of a demo and get some information. But you won't be able to see my positions and my charts of the day, which I think have been pretty interesting. But in any event, right, this is what also kind of helped me stay in the market a little bit yesterday. When the Qs were down like 1% and the market was down for the day, I was looking at the SPX 4-week new highs versus new lows, and I'm like, there's more names that are making new highs versus new lows. And it's tough because tech can kind of mask things a bit, because when it goes down, it's going to pull the indices down. And you could see for today, right? And I took this snapshot midday, so it may have changed a little bit, but right. So there's tech on here, but look at all the other areas that are also showing strength. I mean, this is a pretty strong market when you look at all the sectors that are making new highs. I mean, I've mentioned earlier that I've been talking about the industrials until I'm blue in the face, but look at how many industrials are continuing to break out and break higher, right? You could go through them one by one if you like, but you could just see by eye, how many names, and that will eventually change. But for now, there's a lot of strength in the industrials. Also, the financials are contributing, the healthcare, a little bit of consumer discretionary thrown in there too. But I think that we've got a pretty strong market, I think, internally, right? And again, there's always going to be some negative things to look at, but I just think that there's a lot of interesting sectors to go through. One area that I mentioned, that wasn't getting a lot of attention today was biotech. Biotech was actually the sector that went up the most from the open, right? That's why I like to have this column in here versus this column, right? This column will tell you what the overall performance was, and semis crushed it, no doubt about it, up 6%. But actually, biotech outperformed them over the trading session, up 1.5% versus the semis, which went up 1.3% over the sessions. So over the trading session. So again, a lot of those moves were made in the pre-market, and that happens when you've got a lot of earnings reports out. But I really like this XBI chart, right? Especially when you look at it in terms of the weekly chart, right? But here's where we are, right? This made a nice move, in here, right? And then got to highs in the beginning of the year and just kind of hung out, right? And now trying again, right? And if you look at this weekly chart, right, again, you have to, if I'm looking at the weekly chart, then you've got to have a little bit of a longer time horizon, right? Not a short-term time horizon. But, look at this beginning to kind of break out of, trying at least for now to break out of this range, right? And I think that's a pretty good thing. And I'm long XBI. I've been long XBI for a while. I think it's easier to play the ETF than individual names, but that's a personal preference, right? So that's one area that I thought was interesting. I'm just going to go through a couple names really quickly here for you. Whoops, that's the wrong symbol. But this was a name that we talked about in the trading room. Another strong earnings name from a couple days ago. Look at this thing come back today. Really nice move up about 8%, right? So strong earnings names, right? They tend to bounce pretty decently. Again, I'm going to go through some different sectors. KKR, this has been another strong performer. Here was your original break out of this. We added it to the TGG trend portfolio when that happened, and it broke out and came back into the 20-day moving average, right? So a lot of these strong names come into the 20-day moving average, test it, hold it, and it bounce. Also, another one that I'm watching, probably not on your radar, but that's okay, is this LPLA, right? So this is another financial type name, right? Speaking of financials, still waiting and watching Goldman Sachs, not giving me, every time it seems to try to break out, it doesn't it has a kind of a long wick to the candle, so I think not ready yet. I took my profits in Wells Fargo today, went right to my VPOC target. Usually I'm in banks for a quick point A to point B out of the trade. I'm not really in there for a long trend trade because I think the banks are just harder to trade personally. But so this worked and I'm out. AIG saw some call buying today. The insurance group has been on fire, right? Another group outside of the AI group that's super strong. So a call buyer into here. I like it. I've been positioned in some of the insurers. I've been overweight them in the TTG trend portfolio. That's worked really well for us. Just going back to a couple of the industrial names, right? Hub. Right. Again, some of these names are kind of expensive, a little bit difficult to deal with, but I have them in my portfolio, which is just under 50 names, and Hub has been acting really well. Right. Another one in this group is Fastenal broke to new highs. Right. Eaton, which has been one of my favorites for a while. We've held this one in the TTG trend portfolio. Again, just showing you just some strength within this group. I'm going to shift to the talk a little bit about the restaurants. Wingstop, kind of quietly yesterday, and I tweeted this out yesterday. I'm like, they had really good earnings, right? Look at the volume too, the last couple days in this move higher. So again, it's tough to kind of go after this name here, but any dip, I think would be interesting for Wingstop. CMG also had good earnings. Now this is again, this name is in need of a stock split, but turn the corner back above the 5-period moving average. Had earnings here, a little bit of digestion, right, and moving higher. Not bad at all. A couple other names too. CLS, which is a name that I haven't been trading, but very nice, out to new highs, right? And then lastly, a paint company, right? Sherwin-Williams, right? Still like the strength in the builders. Notice I put a little bit of a paintbrush up there. That's what I would be targeting, 337, which is about another 5% up. I'm going to leave it there, guys. A lot more charts to go through, but I will do that for members. Speaking of which, where can you be a member of Tribeca Trade Group and get some of our ideas? I like to put out 3 charts of the day. Yesterday I had COHR, I had CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike was, a really nice trade for me. I went after this on the 1-hour chart, right? Using the market webs, this VPOC takeout, notice that there isn't one nearby, so I don't have to worry about that. So I bought this candle and I'm still in the trade and it's been working well. If you look at this, right? So now it becomes, how to manage this trade. Well, it's going to have to get through this 20-day moving average, but I'll try to stay long versus the top of value basically here for the last position. Now I've taken, I think, 3 targets in this trade, so it's worked quite nicely. So that was one of my trades yesterday. COHR was one of my trades, right, in that Substack as well. Whoops, wrong chart, wrong symbol. Right, here's COHR. Root made a real nice move. Let's go to the daily chart. All right, there we go. Back above the short-term moving averages. Big calls, January 2026 calls went up yesterday in the semi name. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.